All right, so welcome to the Milton Farr podcast. We have a special guest today. We have, all right, Lauren Adet. She's a real estate investor. Lauren, if you would like, could you tell us just a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Milton. Thanks again for bringing me on your show. I am a real estate investor part-time. I do have a full-time W-2 job, so I do this on the side. And I got started a little bit over, I would say, a year and a half ago. I was actually talking to my mom about how we could get into real estate, and it was this normal, simple way that people think, where save up a couple of years and you put a down payment down, and you buy that first rental property, and you work towards that for a couple of years. And then we actually heard about a couple of different networks that are out there, and we joined a few mentorships. And a year and a half later, we've done a couple of deals now.
Oh, wow, wow. Okay. Well, you said you work a W-2. What profession are you in currently?
I support the Department of Veterans Affairs with their acquisition systems.
Okay, nice. So you said you've gotten a few deals. Take us to that first deal. How did you get it? What type of deal is it? If you have some numbers broken down, break that down as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first deal was actually three properties. I got a lead through a virtual assistant I had hired to help me with some cold calling. And we actually were doing text messaging and ringless voicemail. And we got a call back from a gentleman who was going through probate. His uncle had passed away, and he had inherited three properties through the probate process, and wanted to sell them, to help his family out. And so I got to work with him, and he was really the only one who was working at the time. I really set aside all my time for him, especially working part-time. You only have so much. But it was so great. And I actually still talk to him, even though we sold those properties in February and closed those deals months ago. I just texted him the other day, so we're good friends. But basically, it was three properties his uncle had purchased a while back, and they were actually all in the same street, so it was super convenient to go drive there and take pictures and get the information. And what we ended up doing is wholesaling all three. It made the most sense. My mom and I are partners, and we wanted to eventually make one a rental for ourselves, but it's 3 hours away, and trying to do rehab from that far is a little difficult, especially when you're brand new. So we decided to do wholesale, and we ended up being able to make about 50,000 from those three houses.
Wow, wow. So where are those properties located?
So I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, and those three properties are in Greenville, South Carolina, about 3 hours from here.
Gotcha. So you said you were doing some marketing, text message marketing, and in the voicemails. Did you market in Greenville, or did it just happen that his properties were in that area?
Yeah, we actually marketed to that area on purpose because we know it's a up and coming area. The house prices are going up. It's near a couple of colleges. And besides Greenville, we also marketed to Columbia, South Carolina, and then of course here in the Charleston area.
Wow. Okay. And so, as far as your marketing, if you don't mind going a little bit further, how many leads or how many leads did you have to purchase or get before you finally got that deal?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know we definitely were pulling numbers from a couple different systems of distressed properties, people going through probate or foreclosure, so we could see how we could help them. And I would say at least 1,000 leads. We had a program where we would send them a text message one week, and then the next week it would be a ringless voicemail. And then 2 weeks later, we might reach out, text message, ringless voicemail. So we were still touching them a couple of times a month, but they were getting a variety of marketing.
I see. So you touched that same list multiple times before you got the deal. You didn't just do the list once, throw it away, and then pull another list. You continue to hit that
Exactly.
same list.
That would be amazing if that was possible. But it, it's really about working with that family, working with that person, seeing how you can help them. So imagine if someone texted you out of the blue and just said, "Hey, are you interested in selling your property?" And you were like, "Yeah, give me your money." And you made a deal that day. That doesn't happen. It really
Right.
does take time. And they say, people don't recognize a brand name until they've seen it 7 times. So you have to touch, a message or market, however you're doing it, a couple of times before you're maybe even going to get a conversation with them, and then let alone get those papers.
Sure, yeah, definitely. So you did a wholesale with that one and made about 50,000. So are you focused on strictly wholesaling or are you doing any other real estate strategies?
Yeah, so through the networks I've joined, I actually jumped around to a couple different things to figure out what made the most sense for me. Again, my mom and I are partners. Um, so we hired a VA at first to help us with cold calling to do wholesale. And then we ended up through my own personal property, turning that into a rental, and then finding another rental sub two. We were able to get 2 rental properties into our business. So that's really what we started looking for, is how can we do more of that? Just use other people's deals. And then we also started working with people in the networks we're in, and we've become a private money lender for 2 other properties. So we're trying
Nice.
to dabble a little bit and see what makes the most sense for us, but also just make the money that we were able to get from the wholesale work for us while we're looking for our next deal.
Nice, nice. So the two sub two deals that you got, did you get those from wholesalers?
I actually found someone in the Sub2 network who became a mentor of mine. We worked very closely on the wholesale deals. He was my transaction coordinator. And then we just became, good partners, realized that we made sense in the business because he's more of like a visionary. Very much an integrator. And he actually, in his wholesale business, came across a quadplex in Indiana that made sense for me. So I ended up buying that deal from his company.
Oh, nice. So break that down as far as for people who don't know, visionary and integrator. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so those are what we call avatars, and it's basically kind of your personality type, but also your professional type. So, what type of personality are you? What do you gravitate towards to? So, what we deem as visionary are those people who have the big ideas, who can kind of connect things together and want to make things happen, but maybe don't have the organization skills or the time or the inclination to want to make those things happen. They just see it, they want it, and they're able to talk to people about it, but maybe, those in between steps of like getting the paperwork signed and the meetings and things aren't necessarily part of their repertoire. And then you have integrators who are very much those organized people, love spreadsheets, love to get the minutia done to move things forward a little bit. Maybe they also see the big picture, and maybe the visionaries are also good at some detailed things. But as a general term, usually those 2 types of personalities can work well together in businesses, because you have someone, trying to think of the mission and the vision of the business, and then you got someone really driving it forward day to day.
Right. Yep. Yep. I'm more of the visionary type. And yes, I definitely work with different integrators in my business as well. Definitely helpful because I will be scattered everywhere if I had to do some of the things that is comes natural to a integrator. So yeah, definitely. So you said that you also did some private money lending as well. So if you don't mind, if you could break that down as far as, what that deal looked like and how you were able to come across that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just it's all about the communities you're in and the networks you join, whether you're paying for a mentorship or you're just joining groups on Facebook. There's so many opportunities out there. If you really just take a couple of minutes to talk to people, even if it's, just 15 minutes a day or a couple times a week, you just reach out. There's so many people who are in real estate who really do want to work together and help each other. So these 2 private money lending deals, I came across them through someone in the Sub2 network. It's actually this woman, Jessica. She is a connector type of avatar. So she's helping to connect people through talking to them, wondering what they're looking for and how she can help them. She connected me with a little bit of money to someone who needed, money for
Mhm.
their property. So Jessica hooked me up with Matthias, who had a property in Ohio.
Okay.
And that ended up being 50,000 for the closing costs and rehab, and a little bit of holding fees to get the property up and running while we were getting the rehab going. And that one we did 15% interest, and that's going to be a 6 month deal. So basically every month we get that 15% amortized.
Oh,
And
wow.
then Jessica, the connector, actually had a property as well. So her first property, her first rental that she found in Louisiana. We worked with her. That was also around 50,000, closing costs, some rehab, getting it, holding fees, all that. And that's also a 6 month deal. And we did that one with 12% interest amortized over 6 months.
Nice. So in each of those deals, those investors, they're paying you that interest each month.
Exactly. So we have a deal where a certain day each month they'll deposit that amount, and they can do it through those ACH payments or wire payments, whatever makes sense. You could also do it by check if it makes sense for your business too. I know
Mm-hmm.
there's some really great banks out there that can make it really easy for you to do these kind of payments. And basically what we did is we decided through our promissory note and the mortgage that's signed at closing what our terms were. So how long is that period of time? Do we have an option to extend, or do they have to immediately replace me with another PML at the 6 months? With Jessica, we actually decided to kind of play with it a little bit, and we have the 1 year option with an option to renew. So we're in the 6 months, and then we can go to a year, and then we go years after that. And then we have the option to keep going. It's already written into the paperwork, so we don't have to go back to the closing table every time. It's already set up if we want.
Nice. So between wholesaling, a sub-two rental property, and a private money lending opportunity, which one of those do you think that you have liked the best?
Oh, that's a good question. So having our own rentals is what my business is about. I really want to build up a rental portfolio for me and my family, to build that generational wealth. And then eventually we'd like to start doing wraps as well, where we can put it back into the community and help people who maybe can't afford a normal mortgage or can't get a normal mortgage. So that's something that is already built into our business. But I would say being able to work really closely with the gentleman who needed help, and we were able to sell his homes through probate, that was actually really nice for me to be able to spend that time with him and help him through that process. That was probably the most rewarding of the ones that we've done. And then as far as exciting, I mean, doing the PML deals is exciting because you're a little bit removed from it. So it isn't you desperately trying to look for deals and get the money and all that. So you're that one who's coming in with the money. And I feel like I could step back a little bit. It wasn't so much pressure to make sure the deal worked. I got to decide, oh, if this deal works, then I can give my money, versus like, sometimes when you're newer to real estate, you really want every deal to work. So there's a lot of stress in those situations.
Oh yeah, I bet. And on those private money deals, did you vet the deal? Like, did you feel that each of these investors have a great chance of making money and making, of course, your money back?
Yeah, what I wanted from them is pictures of the property, and we spoke to the title company, the lawyer, or depending on the state, there's either lawyers at the closing table or there's a title company. So we spoke to either one, depending on where the location was, and we looked at the numbers. We made sure that they were going to make money and they could afford to pay us. So that was really important to us to know exactly where that money was going. And also, I would say for a brand new lender, if they're going to do rehab, you want that person to have experience doing rehab. Maybe not being a first time lender and having that person be a first time rental or a first time rehab, that doesn't seem like it would mix. So you kind of have to make sure they have a little bit more experience than you in that area as you're getting started. So you can lean on that experience, but also just make sure you look at those numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And Jessica, I believe, said her name was, as the connector, did she get paid for bringing you to the first deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So she actually got paid from the person with the property. So I didn't pay her to be the lender. She got paid $500 or so to connect me with the person who needed the funding. So that's a really great opportunity for her. And that actually is, so what's cool about real estate is you can really get in so many different areas. You don't have to be the one who wants to build up a rental portfolio, and you don't have to be the one making the sales. You
Mhm.
could be the one connecting parties. You could be the one with software that helps those integrators do that job. There's so many opportunities in it.
Definitely, definitely. And I know you say you're a part of a few communities. What are you in the Sub Two community? Okay, so how did you find Sub Two, and what made you want to join that opportunity?
So I actually had an interesting journey there. So last March 2022, my mom and I were talking about this real estate thing and trying to figure out how we could move forward with it. If in our heads at the time, we had to save up for a couple years, do that 20% down payment and buy a property. And she had just seen something on Facebook for a women's only network. And we actually ended up watching like the free videos and joining that one. And it was actually really lovely to join a community of real estate people, not just because they were women for us, but just because you have people working in that arena. You've got so much experience you can lean on, as well as the materials. And they taught us, the foundation of real estate, about the marketing techniques and how to hire a VA, and the basics of paperwork and making sure you knew what kind of deals were available. And they were very much about using other people's money. So it was our first time learning how to use OPM in your deals. And then we hired our VA, and they were able to get us a couple of leads. And there was that one, that I led all the way through wholesale. But around November last year, we were looking for other opportunities in real estate, and we came across Pace Morby, over probably because we were already gravitating towards real estate posts and things. And he just had such an interesting message. He was like, wow, there's so many opportunities in real estate, but also here's another way that you can get in the door, especially with this crazy market that we've had for the last year and a half. Sub two, or subject to the terms of the original mortgage, is such an interesting way to take on properties. And so we joined his sub two network, and then 2 days later, we joined his Gator network, which is all about transactional lending and providing funding for earnest money deposits, EMD, or closing costs, things like that. And so that is how I met so many people in the network, like my new mentor, Jay Cross, and other people who have helped me connect, like Jessica and Matthias and all those people getting to
Mhm.
properties. So it's so cool how each new network we joined kind of helped collapse that timeline to get us further and further. And it wasn't even just those, main people selling the deal like Pace Morby. It was the people in the community who just kind of opened their arms and helped us get where we are.
Right. Networking is definitely key in real
Mm-hmm.
estate. The relationships you build is probably even more important than um, the marketing and all the other things that we do, because some people can do things that you can't do, and you don't realize it until you meet these people. So it's definitely important. Now, you said you have a 9 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
So break that down as far as how you're able to work a full day shift and then come home and still find opportunities to make this real estate work.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for anyone who's trying to do this job, even if you're doing real estate as your full-time job, is really taking time for your mental health. So between the jobs, I make sure I go for a walk, or, I step away from my computer since I work at the same desk for both jobs. I go make sure I say hi to my family, go eat, those kind of things. And I really just honor my needs. So if one day I'm just spent from a 9 to 5, I take that night off, but I make sure I stay on task for the other days so that I can still get things done. And then you have to prioritize things. If your main job is following up with leads, then that really needs to be your task, and you need to make sure you put time aside for that. If your main task right now is learning, if you just join a network and they have so much materials, then you really do want to sit down and have a plan. And again, I'm mostly an integrator, so that kind of comes naturally to me to think about, like, how long will things take and how much time do I have? But I think for anyone, time management is still going to be something that you have to work at, and you have to hold yourself accountable. So, even if I do take the night off, then I still have a plan the next morning of what I'm going to tackle. If it's going to be listening to a call on my lunch break, or I'm going to do things like this, in my evenings, to still have those connections and move forward with my business.
Definitely. And you said you went through a few VAs. How difficult is it or was it for you to find that right VA who finally was able to get you a deal?
Yeah, so actually the first VA we had was the one who was able to get us the deal. What ended up changing for us is our marketing technique. We decided to change from direct to seller to direct to agent, and that changed who was supporting us. So it wasn't really anything against the first VA. It was more of the skill sets that they had and what they brought to the table. So we've worked with a couple of different VAs that had a lot of different experience, and we're actually still working on finding that just right fit. But we tried a couple different companies, and I think testing things out can really help your business. Uh, especially if you have that time and a little bit of money that can take you there and you aren't the only one doing all the jobs.
Right, right. And how are you finding those VAs?
So it just depends. We found one through a couple different companies. So there's actually a lot of different companies out there. I don't know if I should say them here, but the one we had in the fall who helped us was one company, and then we had one in the spring. And then we had one actually through my mentor, Jake Cross. So he started his own VA
Okay.
company as well, and that's been going really well.
Now, with you, okay, so you are part of Sub 2, you're a part of Gator as well, and then you still felt that you should have a mentor on top of that also.
Yeah.
So, as far as your mentor, what does he bring to the table, and what exactly is he mentoring for you?
Yeah. So again, Jake and I got introduced by someone else in sub two. Um and she brought him to the table to help me with transaction coordination. So that is someone who helps you with the paperwork during the deals, making sure everything's signed, and then they work with the title company and the wholesaler and the buyer, whoever it is, to get those deals to the table. So Jake helped me with that, and we just felt like a really good business relationship growing there with how we each handled, what was going on. And we actually both went to talk to each other about a mentorship. Like he was like, I'd love to keep working with you. And I was like, that's what I was going to talk to you about. So we ended up starting with one call a week. I thought it would just be one a month. I didn't want to be greedy, but he's like, yeah, let's do a half hour every week. Let's talk about where you are in your business and where you want to go. And with him, I could be really honest, like it's really hard to tell people what you're really working towards when you feel like you don't want to be greedy, you don't want to be, out of the box, that kind of thing. So it was really nice to have someone who had already kind of walked that journey and could see it from the other side. So he was able to put a lot of perspective. He was the one who said, like, oh, maybe direct to agent would work for you if, direct to seller isn't exactly what you want to do. And then when that seemed to be also putting limits on what I could do, he was like, well, why do you even need to work with agents or sellers anyway? You could go directly to the people who have deals, and then you can cut out all of that work. So again, thinking about your time, if you're working a 9 to 5, you might not have time to follow up on leads. You might not have to do that cold calling. So why not go to all these lovely people who are already doing that work? And you can create so much abundance because you can pay those wholesalers and get deals. You can get those PMLs and they get interest. And there's such an amazing community out there within Sub 2 and Gator to bring deals to you, let alone everyone else doing real estate out there.
Right. Yep. You're definitely right there, and definitely understand that if someone has a deal, instead of me being the one searching for it and they have it and it's a good deal, why not jump on that? You don't have to always do everything the hard way.
Yeah.
Sometimes the easy way is right there in front of your face.
Yeah. I'm all about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly, exactly. So what would you say to people who are struggling to find their first deal and they're on the brink of just quitting and just sticking to their 9 to 5? What would you say to those individuals?
So I used to be one of those people who put a lot of pressure on myself, that I thought, oh, I should have so many deals by now. And I see all these people closing deals all the time. And I think what a lot of people need to do is honor where they are in their journey. And they really shouldn't try and force it or make a deal work just because it doesn't. That's when you get into financial trouble. You do want to evaluate how risk averse are you? What are you willing to do and compromise? And then just realize that just because someone else has, closed a couple deals in the last month and you haven't, doesn't mean that you can't get there. Usually if you're jealous of someone, it's telling you that that's something you want, and it helps clarify what you want in your life too. So you can turn it around and say, oh, okay, that's what I'm working towards. And then just work backwards to figure out how to get there. So whether that's, figuring it on your own or finding someone in your network to talk to and see if they have, any insight, or especially someone who's already done what you want to do, go talk to that person who just closed 10 deals and see what they're up to, and maybe see if you could be a fly on the wall, or you can help them in any way and they can help you.
Great advice. Great advice. Yeah. I think working backwards is definitely the smartest thing to do. It's the easiest way to just bring everything all together and, make it work. So I definitely agree with everything you just said there. So I guess, for my last question, how can we help you? What exactly are you looking for, and what can, we bring you to help grow your business?
Great. Thank you. So I'm looking for rental properties. I need them to cash flow. So, once you've taken out the private money lending and any rehab and things like that, there's going to be a number at the end after you're paying people back. Ideally, we're cash flowing about 200, 300 a month or more. We're not really tied down to any location necessarily. We'd love to start building up a community here in Charleston, South Carolina. But like I said, we have that quadplex in Indiana. I've got my old property in Maryland, so we're open to location. And then, if you are someone who is just interested in learning about the deals I've closed, I'd still love to chat with you. If you're that person who's kind of getting stressed out and trying to figure out what you need, and I'd love to help anyone out there in the community, because I know we can make deals happen together.
Definitely. Well, that sounds great. How can we find you if anybody has a deal? How can we reach you?
Yeah, so you can reach me on Instagram at lauren.audette, and then also my email, lauren.audette@gmail.com.
Sounds great. Well, hey, thanks, Lauren.